Hey there everyone, welcome back to another episode of Diablo 4. I'm Captain Beefy, this is the Game Vault, and we're going to take another look at our Frost Witch here, who we've had some major changes to. A lot more Paragon points, some upgrades and equipment and all that, but the biggest change is we made it to World Tier 4, and we're at level 71 now. We got here at level 70 shortly after we arrived at that level. And let me tell you, it's been a challenge. We pretty much owned World Tier 3 with this build, and here we're having a really hard time. So let's cue up the music and we'll check her out in combat. Okay, so this whole build is a Frost build. Everything about her is Frost. Of course, we have that one fireball. And that's because, we lost the Ice Shard's ability because it was tied to a piece of equipment. But we're going to look at replacing that and getting back to where we were with that again, hopefully. This character works very well in crowded situations with big groups of mobs, mobs of enemies. Does very well with that. She's very much a glass cannon, though. She takes damage. She goes down pretty quick. So let's just put her in some combat situations and see how she's designed to work. Now we're in the Blind Burrows, which is a pretty good place for mobs of spiders and the like. You can see we go in, we freeze everybody, and we immediately build up a barrier, and everybody's dead. Frost Nova helps out. Frost Nova helps out immensely. Starts setting everybody up with vulnerability. But that's how she's designed to work. In regular gameplay, she's pretty solid now. In a tough situation, it can be a challenge from time to time. Certain bosses and so forth. At the end of dungeons, they can cause some trouble. But for the most part, she handles herself fairly well. Especially against mobs. Against single foes, that are real big and real, for a better word, she can struggle from time to time. Poison damage really wrecks her. Any kind of damage that, lightning, all that kind of stuff, it really hurts her, so you need to be careful with her a little bit, a little cautious. I'm hoping to get equipment, gear that will help mitigate some of that, make things a little easier. I've been looking for things to extract, aspects to extract, to put on some higher level gear when I come across it. It's just been a bit of a challenge so far. Like I said, there is a huge spike in difficulty we got here. Huge. So that's how she handles herself in combat. Just wanted a quick look at it right there. Now we'll go back to town and we'll take a look at the build itself. Alright, so I don't think anything's really changed since the last time we looked at the actual skill tree. We still have a rank 5 Frostbolt with a 15% chance to explode on chilled enemies. Chance increases to 100% against frozen enemies. Frostbolt makes frozen enemies vulnerable for 3 seconds. So there's our first instance of causing vulnerability. Now here, let's put that in there. There we go. I don't know how that happened. So we got our Ice Shards back. That's cool. That's just there kind of as a placeholder. We really don't use it in this build. I know a lot of the meta builds are built solely around this ability. We might go that route eventually if I can't get this one under control, but for now, it is what it is. Devastation maximum mana is raised by 9. Moving on to our defensive skills, we have a 5/5 Frost Nova, which is great. Killing enemies frozen by Frost Nova reduces its cooldown by 1 second, allowing up to 4 seconds per cast. That comes massively handy for the cooldown on it. And Frost Nova makes enemies vulnerable for 4 seconds, increased to 6 seconds against bosses. There's 2 things that cause vulnerability so far. We got a 3 out of 3 here for the Glass Canyon. 18% increased damage, 9% more damage. So, yeah, that can hurt. Also, we've got Elemental Attunement. Critical strikes have up to a 15% chance to reset. The cooldown of one of your defensive skills can only happen once every 10 seconds. So that's nice because we do get a lot of critical hits, and that can reset the Frost Nova for me. And that is a big part of this build, is the Frost Nova. Now here we have Ice Blades, rank 5 of 5. This is Conjuration. It is what it is. I don't really use it a lot, but it's kind of nice. We don't have any of the upgrades for it or anything like that. You know, it's got a lucky chance, 82%, 6 seconds. They run around, they do quite a bit of damage, and they have a 30% chance to make things vulnerable again for 2 seconds. I need to use this more. I kind of forget about this one a lot. So, yeah. For every 40 seconds in cooldowns you spend, you spawn an Ice Blades on a random enemy. That's kind of neat. Moving on, this is our bread and butter here. This is what we built it around. Our mastery skill is Blizzard, and we've got a rank 8 of 5. So, that's through our gear. Blizzard deals 25% increased damage to frozen enemies. When cast above 50 mana, Blizzard's duration is increased by 4 seconds. We don't have a lot of mana, so that's always the first one that goes out. Lasts longer. Then we end up spamming it, and then it'll rebuild again, and we'll get back to it again. The mana cost is 40. That's a 38% lucky hit chance. It's a frigid blizzard that deals 27,303 damage and continually chills enemies for 18% over 8 seconds. So, pretty freaking solid. Then we have barriers have a 15% increased duration. When you have a barrier active, you apply 24% more chill. And frost skills have up to a 9% chance to instantly freeze. So, chilling, freezing, vulnerability, all that stuff is at work here. Next up is our ultimate skill. That is this right here, the Deep Freeze. Cooldown is 60 seconds, a full minute. You don't use this very often. Lucky hit chance 2%. Encase yourself in ice, becoming immune for 4 seconds, continually dealing 3,700 to 4,500 damage and chilling enemies for 14%. When Deep Freeze expires, it also deals an additional 14 to 18,000 damage. So this is kind of a get-out-of-jail-free card. If I'm getting overwhelmed, I can go into this. I'm protected when I'm in it. I'm not taking damage, and I'm unleashing a lot of damage. But we're doing a lot more with that, and I'll show you here in a second with the gear as far as what's going on with that. We've got Permafrost. Frost skills deal 50% increased damage to elites. That helps out a lot. We deal 9% increased damage to chilled enemies and increased damage 18% to frozen enemies. Deal 12% increased cold damage to vulnerable enemies, and lucky hit, cold damage against vulnerable enemies has up to a 20% chance to generate 15 mana. That's kind of like a random, yeah, we got you a little bit of mana back, because mana can be an issue with the amount of times that we cast Blizzard. On to our key passive. We're using Shatter. After freeze expires, enemies explode for 25% of the damage you dealt to them while frozen. So it's just kind of like a cool thing to add a little bit of explosiveness and all that. We could go with Avalanche, Lucky Hit. Your frost skills have up to a 10% chance to make your next cast of Ice Shards, Frozen Orb, or Blizzard consume no mana and deal 40% increased damage. I might switch this one out, because I think that might come in handy with the Blizzard a lot more than this does. I don't know. We'll have to see. Our Paragon board is 3 pages long now? Yeah. So we're not going to look at everything on here, but we'll look at some of the key stuff. We've got the Elementalist rare node, 20% non-physical damage, 4% maximum life. You know, okay. We do have a glyph in here that gives us 3.8% physical damage. Paragon nodes within range gain 15% bonus to their non-physical damage and damage reduction modifiers. We do meet the additional bonus, dealing fire, cold, or lightning damage to an enemy increases all damage you deal to them by 5% for 10 seconds, stacking once per element. So we don't have that bonus met yet. I do need a few more intelligence nodes, and I should get those. So I put one here, there will be 5, 10, 15, 20. What are we short? We're short 20. So In theory, I could do that. Moving on to the next board. Our glyph here, 30.9% non-physical damage for each skill equipped in your enchantment slot. Gain 13% resistance to that skill's element. For every 5 intelligence purchased within range, you deal plus 3.4% increased non-physical damage. If the requirements are met, and they are here, for each skill equipped in our enchantment slot, gain 13% resistance to that skill's element. So that's cool. A couple of the rares here, 30% damage to chilled enemies, 6.9% non-physical, 10 intelligence. Over here, we've got 12% damage reduction from chilled enemies, 10 intelligence, 6.9 non-physical damage. Moving up over here, 30% damage to chilled enemies. Are you sensing a pattern? 10% non-physical damage. Another 15% damage to chilled enemies requirements met. So yeah, that's why we got the 30. Here we've got a legendary node, Icefall. Killing a frozen enemy grants you 15% of your maximum life as a barrier. So this comes in handy quite a bit. You'll see barriers pop up all the time as I'm killing these groups of enemies, especially after a Frost Nova, which freezes and makes everybody vulnerable. You know, that's just a fantastic no-brainer to have in there. Next up over here, we got 20% more cold damage, 4% chill application. And we move on to the last board. 4% potion healing and 4% maximum life. You know, I was going this direction anyway. I figure I'll get it. Here we've got a rare node chilling, 12% cold resistance, plus 10 intelligence. Our node here, the glyph socket, 1.8% cold resistance, 1.5% vulnerable damage. After spending 50 mana, you deal 6.7 increased damage and gain 6.7 increased mana generation for 3 seconds. So casting a couple of blizzards will, you know, get those things moving on there. It shows you what it does there. It grants 30% bonus to all magic nodes in range. After spending 50 mana, you deal blah, 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 blah. Good. Then we've got this one over here, 20% vulnerable damage, 10 intelligence, 346. Or, I'm sorry, that's it, yeah. And here, we have a legendary node, Frigid Fate. Dealing cold damage to vulnerable enemies increases your lucky hit chance by 1% for 5 seconds up to 15%. You know, I'm not really sure about that one, but we've got it in there for now, so it is what it is. Looking at the actual character, this is what we've got for equipment. We've got a Sacred Legendary Helm. We're looking to upgrade everything to Ascendant. You know, it's just going to take some time to do that. You know, we only have, our Ancestral, we only have a couple of those right now. And it's tough finding them. But this one here, damaging an elite enemy grants you a barrier absorbing up to 53 damage for 10 seconds. So here again, we've got our barrier stuff. We rely a lot on barriers, and I find that to be a big help in the longevity of this character for the most part. Here we've got a Frost Nova, gains an additional charge, but the cooldown per charge is increased by 37%. Sacred Legendary Chest Armor. I'd like to replace that imprinted ability with one that has a much lower increase in the cooldown, you know. That extra charge of Frost Nova is fantastic, though. It's well worth it. Here we got another imprinted one. So you remember the Deep Freeze, right? That big ultimate attack. While Deep Freeze is active, exploding ice spikes form in the area, dealing 752 cold damage. Your ice spikes have a 50% increased explosion radius. These are on some Ancestral Legendary Gloves. We're going to look for that again and try to bump that up to some huge numbers, way above that 752. As you see, it's below the minimum for some reason. I think I extracted that a long time ago before I knew what I was doing. Here's another one that affects Deep Freeze. When Deep Freeze is active, you restore 70% of your maximum life and mana per second. That's fantastic, because I very often hold off on that until I'm hurt. And then I hit it, because it tends to do a lot of damage, leaves me with a barrier afterward, yada yada yada. Well, in this case, it also restores my mana and my health, so by the time I come out of it, I'm ready to fight again. Moving on to our shoes, we got the Greaves of Shared Misery. Just a Sacred. When you hit a crowd-controlled enemy, there's up to a 42% chance for that crowd control effect to spread to another affected enemy. I'm not really happy with these shoes. I do like the +3 max evade charges, but otherwise, I'm looking to replace those. And that's the main thing I'm looking for right now is shoes. Moving on, we've got a Glacial Amulet. This one here, when you cast Blizzard, it will periodically spawn exploding ice spikes that deal 1,049 damage. Your ice spikes deal 30% increased damage to frozen enemies. So those ice spikes come in handy. And here we've got it again, this time with 1,031 damage. And here we got another one for Deep Freeze. When it's active, exploding ice spikes form an area dealing 618 cold damage. Again, not great, but it helps. Your ice spikes have a 50% increased exploding radius. And last but not least, our weapon. When you cast Blizzard, it will periodically spawn exploding ice spikes that deal 1,770 damage. Your ice spikes deal 50% increased damage to frozen enemies. Now, gem-wise, we've got some emeralds in there for critical strike. In our armor, we do barrier generation with diamonds, and our jewelry all has skulls, and that's for 250 armor, which is an extra 750 altogether. So that is what our character looks like there. As you can see, our strength is there. I've got a nice intelligence at 766. Increases our skill damage by 76.7% and increases resistance to all elements by 38.3. That's not bad. There's our basic weapon damage, which all other damage modifiers are based off of. I'd love to get the speed up. The critical strike chance kind of sucks. I'd like to add more to that and more to this. It's just the base value right there. So I'm going to look to work on these critical strike chances and damage. Going down to vulnerable, we got 46.5. So we've got an extra 26 on the vulnerable damage. Crowd control 52, stunned, chilled 90% more damage. That's great. Damage with cold 215%. That's fantastic. Our maximum life is 3,500. Got, a little bit of life generation, life on kill, all that kind of fun stuff. Mana, we're only at 109. I need to work on my mana and mana generation too. These are things I'm looking for when I find new items and I start re-rolling items and I start printing and extracting and all that. That's another thing I really want to work on. Also, movement speed would be kind of nice. It is what it is. But anyway, that's what my character is like now. I've been running her from day one. Got her up to level 71. And let me know down in the comments below what you think I should do as far as maybe my skills, or is there something I should be looking for in the Paragon board? I'm not, I'm a casual player of Diablo 4. I'm no professional or anything like that. So any feedback would be welcome, or any suggestions, recommendations. That's just a basic idea. I know there are meta builds out there and that everybody's touting them out there. I want to do something kind of original to have fun. I have seen a couple people touting Blizzard builds the last few days, so that's kind of interesting. Maybe this is going to turn into something that's going to be a part of the meta. I don't know. We might have to rework this a little bit and make it super duper powerful. But in any case, thanks for stopping by. If you haven't done so, please leave a like on the video down below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications. I will see you guys next time. Until then, peace.